This is Matthew Kratter's Bitcoin University. Today I want to do something a little bit different. I want to share with you a presentation that I just made at LA Bitcoin Week. That's where I've been the past couple of days. And what this presentation is it's really sort of a meta version of my channel. How do I think about the art of persuasion, and how do I think about meme craft? And how do I think about evangelizing Bitcoin and talking to different types of Bitcoiners? So I called this Bitcoin and the subtle art of persuasion. How to evangelize, how to speak to nevercoiners, nocoiners, precoiners, shipcoiners, NPCs, how to meme like a master. This talk was dedicated to the masters of advanced Bitcoin meme craft who came before me. Bitstein, The Art of Bitcoin Rhetoric at BitBlock, Boom, 2019. You can find that on YouTube. Pierre Rochard, Matt Odell, and too many others to name. So this first question, why use memes as a persuasion technique? This is because contemporary attention spans are quite short and the world suffers from information overload. Memes are short, pithy, and easy to deploy. Memes offer an effective antidote to Brandolini's law. Memes can help you to burn less energy refuting BS than the perpetrators burn spreading BS. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a meme is worth 1,000 pictures. Memes are really like concentrated liquid dish soap. So use memes wisely or you will end up with too many suds all over your screen. I'm a big fan of Ezra Pound, who is an American poet, born in Idaho, ended up in Europe. He was one of the founders of Imagism, which is an American and European poetry movement. One of the things he talked about was the image, and he defined it as that which presents an intellectual and emotional complex in an instant of time. And says this would also be a great example and a great description of what memes are. They're this very concentrated symbol that also evokes certain emotions. And I think this is a great example of something that this particular meme, a Bitcoin, sort of draped in the American flag. This evokes, of course, American patriotism and nationalism. It also is a reminder that Bitcoin is code, and under the Bill of Rights, Bitcoin and code are protected, or code is protected, software code is protected as free speech. This is also a reminder that Bitcoin is freedom money. So depending whether you're American or not, and sort of what your orientation is there, you'll read different things into memes like this. But what I'm trying to get across here is just what a concentrated way it is of saying so many different things, especially when you cross symbols like the Bitcoin logo and the American flag. This was another one from Bitcoin Rebel, the famous "Don't Tread on Me" snake flag. How do we use memes and other forms of persuasion judiciously with different groups of people? First, the soteriology of Bitcoin. Not everyone will be saved. This famous quote, Bitcoin is for anyone, but it's not for everyone. And many fiat elites are just not going to make it, NGMI. And that's okay. They're on the highway to Fiat Hill. I like to think that this is Paul Krugman over here on the left, or maybe Peter Schiff. Reminder that there's no Bitcoin salvation for Keynesians, Marxists, Young WEF, World Economic Forum leaders, MMTers, fiat banksters, and really others whose salaries and careers and social circles make it impossible for them to accept Bitcoin. They'll just end up alienating too many people in their lives and in their professional lives. So these are people who are not going to come across, not going to come over to Bitcoin at any point in time. And so these are people that you should not engage with. At least you should not have rational, logical arguments with them. If you get in a pissing contest with a skunk, as the old saying is, you lose even if you win. So it's basically theologically impossible for these nevercoiners to be saved. And you can tell here I'm using theological language, but this is all done in a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek way, of course. You may lose your own Bitcoin soul if you try to argue with them. So the thing to do is to mock them instead, these nevercoiners, these no-coiners. Laugh in their faces, remind them how Bitcoin just keeps going up and up and up. Number go up technology. Have fun staying poor. If you're one of the fiat elites who doesn't get Bitcoin. These are people like Peter Schiff, who's really not interested in learning about Bitcoin. He just wants to farm engagement. And so you should just laugh at him and mock him for the fact that he's been wrong about Bitcoin for so long. Here's another great meme with Peter Schiff. A no-coiner should always be mocked and his character impugned, and this is not difficult since they're usually quite bad people. When Jamie Dimon calls Bitcoin a pet rock, the wrong approach is to argue with them. The correct approach is this. You just say Jamie Dimon is Jeffrey Epstein's banker. That's all you really need to say. I like Walker's version here, the Jeffrey Epstein movie, Jeffrey Epstein's banker, starring Jamie Dimon. Jack Mahler's said this on CNBC or CNN, one of the legacy channels. What do I think about Jeffrey Epstein's banker being concerned that a distributed, decentralized, open public money could potentially be used for bad things? Sitting on a ski resort in Davos, I don't really care. This is the correct approach to someone like Jamie Dimon. Mark Cuban says he'd rather have bananas than Bitcoin because they're more useful. So you don't argue with him about that Bitcoin actually has utility. The correct response is to maybe post something like the Babylon Bee. Mark Cuban inspires thousands by proving that the very retarded, even the very retarded, can become wealthy. Same with Elizabeth Warren. There's no point having rational arguments with her when she says that Bitcoin requires so much computing activity that it eats up more energy than entire countries, and she pretends to have this green approach while protecting the bankers in our system. What you do is you just remind her how she flies on private jets and treats herself a little bit differently. She wants everyone else to ride a bicycle while she's on her private jet. I have nothing against private jets, and I've ridden in them myself. But if you're going to do this, you shouldn't hide behind your staffers like Elizabeth Warren does here and be a complete hypocrite and a complete coward. So that's the correct response to someone like this, not argue about Bitcoin's energy usage with her. Christine Lagarde, Bitcoin is a highly speculative asset which has conducted some funny business. What you do is you remind people that Christine Lagarde herself did some funny business, probably should be in jail, but instead is still one of the ruling elite. And I love this meme from Joe Nakamoto. Congratulations, Lagarde. A tremendous achievement for Europe and its people. The euro has lost almost 90% of its value against gold in just 25 years. So you mock someone's track record as well. And you can also post memes like this about how Lagarde and other central bankers and fiat quote-unquote elites are really just dinosaurs waiting to be taken out by Bitcoin. So you never argue with these people. That's the important thing. You can also make fun of them in ways that might be sort of unkind. Big bureaucrat bashes Bitcoin with the dual meaning of big. But again, remember, we're punching up. We're not punching down. And when Nassim Taleb criticizes Bitcoin, we can put his own categories back on him and say, you're not looking very anti-fragile these days. If you're ever lucky enough to get a clip of a regime apparatchik making a complete fool of himself, be sure to play it on repeat, especially if the guy is the chair of a president's Council of Economic Advisors like Jared Bernstein is. So let's hear what he has to say here.
The U.S. government can't go bankrupt because we can print our own money.
It obviously begs the question, why exactly are we borrowing in a currency that we print ourselves? I'm waiting for someone to stand up and say, why do we borrow our own currency in the first place?
Like you said, they print the dollar. So why does the government even borrow?
Well, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do? They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Because they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah. So a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money and then it uses that money to I guess I can't really talk. I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, because it's like the government clearly prints money. It does it all the time, and it clearly borrows. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So I don't think there's anything confusing there.
This is a great example of our fiat elites and why we're in so much trouble. Again, this is the chairman of Biden's Council of Economic Advisors, and he seems to be in only slightly better shape than Biden himself. So when you do come across a clip like that from one of the fiat elites who would be critical of Bitcoin, it's very important to play it again and again and show what fools these people are. Moving on, never ever let a nevercoiner set the frame for discussion, because if you let them set the frame, you lose. We live in a Bitcoin world now, and as Bitcoiners, we need to get good at picking the framing that works well for us. Always seek to associate Bitcoin with all things bright and beautiful, like kittens and puppies and sweet things like a grandfather or Santa Claus giving a Bitcoin to a young kid, or something like this, just a beautiful landscape. Maybe it's Manhattan transformed onto a Bitcoin standard. And then, of course, you have sort of pastoral paintings like this. So it's important to always associate Bitcoin with positive things and good things when you're talking about it. Bitcoin is nonviolent money. Bitcoin almost has this divine quality for some people as well. And then always associate fiat money with misery, poverty, sickness, and death. Fiat money is death, and you show a picture of the dollar bill with a skull on it instead of Ben Franklin, and you show US dollars with blood on them because obviously it is the currency of war and the warmongers. Always use fiat as a synonym for bad. Fiat money, fiat farms, fiat food, fiat science, fiat schools, fiat families, fiat science. I love this last one, fiat boyfriend. Hat tip to Alan Farrington, who I think discussed this on a recent pod with Peter McCormick. Tracy Alloway saying here, he was a fiat boyfriend, Becky. He's just not worth it. Just forget about him. So that's a great way of using fiat. Side note, Bitcoin evangelism requires discernment. You need to figure out who deserves a metaphorical online beating and who deserves love and hand-holding. And the same person or group might require different approaches on different days. So you don't want to be toxic to genuine inquirers. Instead, you want to be helpful. If they're a serious inquirer and concerned about Bitcoin's energy usage, for example, then you can bring up rational arguments and comparisons to the energy usage of the Bitcoin ecosystem versus the US banking system or the US military, and you can go down the rabbit hole of showing how the US dollar is secured by proof of war, which is a much more wasteful way of securing a currency than proof of work and has a much larger and more negative impact on the environment. So you can bring up these rational arguments with people who are genuine inquirers, and again, this requires discernment. But if they're nevercoiners, if they're nocoiners, if they're NPCs, and if they seem like they're just not interested in engaging, then pure mockery will suffice. This is from Francis Pouliot. No Bitcoin bad for the environment. What? I can't hear you. You just mock them and let them cry about Bitcoin's energy usage. Also make sure to point out their logical inconsistencies when you mock them. So when a Tesla or other EV is using just electricity, wow, it's electric, so it releases no CO2. Of course, Bitcoin mining rigs, ASICs, also just run on electricity. No, stop, you're going to boil the oceans. This is the double standard that you need to highlight to people. Very similar to this sort of environmental double standard, saving the planet, destroying the planet. So this is one way that memes can capture these arguments in a very compact and easy to deploy way. And then if they mock your meme, tell them they couldn't understand it because they're an NPC, a non-player character. This comes from gaming. Maybe I'm an NPC. No, having the same opinions as celebrities and major corporations while repeating every media talking point verbatim is what real people do. So you can point out that they're NPCs. I was today years old when I realized that the PBS logo is the NPC meme. I used to love PBS, but somehow public radio and public television lost the plot over the last couple decades. More framing suggestions: never, ever, ever accept their Orwellian newspeak. With all due respect to EU bureaucrats, there's no such thing as a quote-unquote self-hosted wallet or a non-custodial wallet. That's as ridiculous as saying I'm self-hosting physical gold in my basement, when what I've really done is just holding a bearer asset in my house. If you use their framing, the bureaucrats' framing, the regulators' framing, the enemies of Bitcoin, their framing, you've already lost. So there really is no such thing as a custodial wallet. We shouldn't even talk this way. A custodial wallet is just an account that you have with an exchange or a custodian. And if you say non-custodial, if you buy into this Orwellian newspeak, you've already lost the argument, since you're acknowledging that custodial is the norm and that you're doing something weird and unusual by controlling your own private keys. Also, always portray shipcoin scammers as weak, stupid, fat, and as objects of ridicule. So we just finished talking about nocoiners and nevercoiners and the fiat elites. Then we talked a little bit about discernment and whether someone is a genuine inquirer or they just want to cause trouble or they're just an NPC. But here we're talking about people who actually promulgate shipcoin scams, and many of these people are billionaires because of their scams. So always portray these people. We're not just talking about regular people on the street, but these actual scammers And the people who are paid by the scammers to promote these shitcoins always portray them as weak, stupid, fat, and as objects of ridicule. In other words, choose realism. So this would be Ethereum. No one likes to put themselves in these shoes. And for example, when a male sees this, they may unconsciously or quite consciously absorb the idea that holding Ethereum is not the way to get a girlfriend or a wife, and that it's a pathetic currency to hold. Here we have Vitalik Buterin as the scammer clown. Of course, we have Craig Wright, and what you can do is you can add a little fat to their faces. Same with Roger Ver, and you can do it in a really ridiculous way, so people can tell that you're just mocking them. I like what Corey Clipston did here. Scammed Andreessen Horowitz, the VC firm from Silicon Valley. This was another one of their pump and dumps, and he made it sort of line up with Mark Andreessen's large bald head. More on how to speak to shipcoiners. Be vigilant and never let a day pass without calling them retarded. Retarded is a wonderful, multifaceted word that Satoshi himself has blessed us to rehabilitate by including it in an email to Marty Malmy, who was a very early on Bitcoiner. Ain't you the cutest little thing? I hold XRP. Oh no, it's retarded. XRP investors. When someone tells you they have XRP in their portfolio. Crypto then, we solved the Byzantine generals problem and created a global decentralized currency. Crypto now, coin has dog, obviously an allusion to Shiba Inu or Dogecoin. And then, of course, we have the drooling idiots who say Litecoin is silver to Bitcoin's gold, or Caspa is silver to Bitcoin's gold. I like this quote from Michael Saylor. I've used it a lot. Trading Bitcoin is a sign of lesser intellect, and then you can demonstrate it very clearly with this meme, the drooling trader. And then we have the midwit meme, this sort of IQ scale or IQ distribution, and you put the person you don't like in the middle, and then you have the really smart person on the right and the really dumb person on the left agreeing. So in this case, it would be you just own BTC, you just own Bitcoin, and then you have the midwit in the middle saying diversify. Likewise here, both the really dumb guy and the really smart guy think Bitcoin's headed to 250,000 soon, and then the guy in the middle, the midwit, raging about it. It's okay to call other people retarded as long as you remember that you're retarded too. So I'm retarded, Groks are retarded, but if you're in the middle of this midwit curve saying you're not retarded, then you just don't get it. Never use a regular name to invoke a shipcoin founder. Always use an epithet instead. So never call him Vitalik Buterin. You can call him Cat Purse Boy. And again, as I said a little bit earlier in this presentation, it's best to punch up and not punch down. So you shouldn't be afraid to mock people who've earned billions of dollars by dumping on retail investors and doing it in a very unethical manner. So when I talk about Vitalik and people like him, this is not intended as an attack on neurodiversity, which I do value. Obviously, there are a lot of weird Bitcoiners as well, and I might be one of them. But what I'm doing here is this is an attack. This is a rhetorical attack on scammers who pre-mine their coins and dump them to get rich. So I'm not going to make fun of some just regular Ethereum person. But if the founder is like this is a way to make his coin seem less desirable and help people to avoid the scam. So we have Vitalik, we associate him with Sam Bankman-Fried and other scammers. This is obviously based on the movie Dumb and Dumber, so scam and scammerer. Birds of a feather flock together, Vitalik and Sam Bankman-Fried. Vitalik gets his big boy pants, making fun of him when Ethereum got an ETF, which has turned out to be a complete bomb. Ethereum successfully castrates itself. This was the thumbnail I used when Ethereum moved from proof of work to proof of stake, and it really has been a castration by the market. The price of Ethereum against Bitcoin is down quite a bit ever since then. And then I displayed this as proof that, in fact, there was some castration happening. Remind people repeatedly how their life savings are at the mercy of this guy and ask them how they're still able to sleep at night. Do you really want your retirement savings in a protocol whose bully pulpit is controlled by a guy who wears furry costumes? Anyone else think he looks like if Tom Brady did meth? So another way of poking fun of Vitalik Buterin. And then this one from Wojak Bitcoin memes. First at the bottom here, we have Satoshi from the Bitcoin Talk Forum. Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, saying that pineapple and jalapenos is a good pizza topping. I guess this is strong evidence that he was not Italian by birth or by culture. And then we have Vitalik Buterin as a contrast, saying, I can easily argue that doing heroin imposes risks on others. Simple possession of child porn of CP does not. Again, this is a way to remind people this is the guy who's in charge of your money, essentially, who has the bully pulpit and leads development and leads the culture. And you really don't want someone like this holding your money. Of course, you can make fun of Richard Hart and the people who held Hex. Got scammed. Surprisingly, it's hard to imagine buying a cryptocurrency from a guy who looks like this, and then it goes almost to zero. So you can make fun of the founders. Again, all these people I've been talking about here are basically billionaires, and so we really are punching up. I like this tweet from Tomer. Bitcoin proved you can solve the paradox behind the Byzantine generals problem. Ethereum set out to prove that you can both suck and blow at the same time. Then we have Charles Hoskinson here, founder of Cardano, another crypto billionaire and scammer in my opinion. And so we take this picture and we can turn it into a very nice thumbnail. Cardano guy says turn off Bitcoin, making him look weird. And here's Charles Hoskinson eating some chocolate ice cream, so we can point out what a shipcoiner is, Cardano getting flushed again. And so this is how we can associate these scammy coins with their founders and really turn people off. Remember that some things once seen can never be unseen, and use it to your advantage. This is one of the greatest memes of all time by John Carvalho. Did you know that the Cardano logo was made to look like an anus? The designer wanted to capture the shipcoin essence and show exactly where users will feel it when they get wrecked. And I sort of riffed on this and retweeted it, saying I love Cardano for its transparency and openness. Litecoin is silver to Bitcoin's gold. We already talked about this one. Just sort of demonstrating to people the kind of people who hold ideas like this. Obviously, Bitcoin is infinitely divisible. And so unlike under bimetallism, where you had silver and gold and use gold for large denominations of money and silver for small denominations, you don't need this when you have digital currency. And so you can make fun of people who believe that somehow their coin is going to be the little brother to Bitcoin or will be silver to Bitcoin's gold, because this is just not going to happen. There's no need for it because of Bitcoin's excellent digital properties and divisibility. And then we can repeatedly retweet this idea. Whenever a Caspin or Litecoiner says digital silver, you know they're a tard. Caspa means silver in a language that has like 600,000 living speakers left. That's Aramaic, of course. It means dandruff, I guess Caspa with a C. It means dandruff to 600 million people who speak Spanish. Does Caspa have a head and shoulders shampoo vulnerability? That is talking, of course, about the chart formation that shows that Caspa is going to crash right back down. So we can use this to our advantage. We can meme these different cryptocurrencies. You can call Litecoin shitcoin. ETH becomes meth, Bitcoin Cash becomes Bcash or Bitcoin Trash, Caspa is dandruff, Cardano is an anus, and Monero is hot potato money, as I've talked about on this channel. Basically, there's never been a circular economy developing for Monero because people don't want to HODL it. Even drug dealers want to exchange it for Bitcoin and then hold their long-term savings in Bitcoin. And one thing I like about this meme is it seems to have been picked up by the AI. So if you Google Monero's hot potato money, the AI overview from Google, yes, Monero is considered hot potato money. I love that that's what made its way into the AI. Other ways to elude the censors. We talk about shipcoin a lot on this channel, obviously. The F word, you can use fork instead. So when Greenpeace is advocating for Bitcoin moving from proof of work to proof of stake, you can have this little joke, this little pun, go fork yourself, Greenpeace. Other ways to elude the censors. Autistic becomes acoustic. And again, we're not making fun of actually autistic people. We're making fun of autistic, quote unquote, autistic scammers who use this, people like Sam Bankman-Fried, for example, who use this persona to scam people. So again, we're not punching down. We're not talking about people who have real issues. We're talking about in sort of a slang, casual, humorous way. Highly retarded becomes highly regarded. And so we have Marathon, Mara here, highly regarded Bitcoin miner because they're mining Caspa, which is a really dumb thing to do. And they were also the first North American company to try to produce government-approved, U.S. government-approved OFAC compliant Bitcoin blocks, and they received a lot of pushback, and then they stopped doing it. So you can call someone highly regarded. Again, I'm calling a highly paid multimillionaire CEO highly regarded. I'm not doing it to some poor guy on the street. Some useful pedagogical memes. Bitcoin is king. It's very useful to see how Bitcoin has been the leader in this space since 2015 and even before that, obviously, and how second place and third place has moved around a lot. This is very helpful to give some historical context, and rather than boring people with historical context, you can just show them this chart, just show them this meme. And here's another meme that's pedagogically very useful. Rather than Bitcoin being part of the crypto space and separate from fiat, the reality is Bitcoin is its own thing, and crypto really just recreates fiat. So it's inside of that bubble. The US dollar is a melting ice cube that loses purchasing power over time because of central bank money printing and debasement. This is a great way of showing that, showing the falling purchasing power of the dollar and comparing the dollar to comparing the US dollar to a melting ice cube. I like this one from Canute Bitcoin. The value of one Bitcoin should be everything, infinity, divided by 21 million. Of course, this is bad math, but it's a very good meme. And then there are different ways we can argue with people online. And you've probably seen me doing this in the comment section and on Twitter. Someone asked me, should I buy XYZ coin? No, it's a stupid shitcoin is my response. Is XYZ the next Bitcoin? No, Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. That's very important for people to realize. Is XYZ coin better than Bitcoin? No, there is no second best. You can quote Michael Saylor there. What about gold? And then my response would be, I'm not interested in shiny yellow rocks. Again, you don't really argue with someone. Maybe they're a gold bug who's becoming interested in Bitcoin, then maybe you would be a little kinder than this. But if they're being obnoxious like Peter Schiff, you just say, I'm not interested in shiny yellow rocks. Then, of course, they'll come back with actually gold is a precious metal. And then you just come back, no, it's shiny yellow rocks, and you need to trust the science. So you argue with them in a very humorous way. People say Bitcoin is going to crash soon. You respond, I sure hope so. I love me some cheap sats. Bitcoin consumes more energy than Norway. Your response can be, or whatever country, I certainly hope it does. Does Norway even have refrigerators? I've heard that they have to use lye to preserve their fish. For people who are part Norwegian like me, you'll get this joke. This is a joke about lutefisk. And so this is ways of responding. You have to discern who you're arguing with, and sometimes it's better just to respond in a flippant, humorous way. People use Bitcoin to buy drugs as a critique. So what you do is you agree and amplify. I know, I use it all the time and it works great. There's going to be a bank run on Bitcoin, then just leave your money at Silicon Valley Bank, pointing out the fragility of the legacy banking system compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still here. Silicon Valley Bank is long gone. I love this tweet from Francis Pouliot again from bullbitcoin.com. The cryptocurrency system I've designed in my head is superior to the one that processes $2 trillion per month without any issue. How to meme like a Fed. You should definitely not meme like this. Bitcoin is violence. Bitcoin is a weapon. Just don't do it, especially if you actually work for the US government, like certain people do who have been putting forth memes like this over the years. And then, of course, we have the greatest and oldest and the most original Bitcoin meme, which is HODL. This was this drunken misspelling in a blog post. Hold on for dear life is what it's been turned into. The first rule of Bitcoin is you never sell Bitcoin. So obviously using a Fight Club analogy here, it's great to use popular culture in movies, very popular movies like Interstellar, for example. 1 hour here is 7 years on Earth. Good, we can HODL here. Matt Odell has the best version of HODL, I think, which is stay humble and stack sats. It means you don't use leverage. You don't allocate more to Bitcoin than you can handle at a given point in time. You don't get too excited when Bitcoin's price goes up. You don't get too despondent when Bitcoin's price goes down. And you just stack sats. You stay humble and stack sats. Another great meme he has, which is Mandibles, then a Bitcoin standard. If you haven't read the novel Mandibles, which talks about hyperinflation coming to the US, it's definitely a good read. So these are other ways of sort of encapsulating Bitcoin lore and Bitcoin teaching. And I wanted to end with perhaps my favorite Bitcoin meme obviously from the Matrix. What are you trying to tell me, that I can trade my Bitcoin for millions someday? No, Neo, I'm trying to tell you that you won't have to when you're ready. So that was my basic presentation, and I tried to provide kind of a meta-analysis about how I think about persuasion in this space. So I wanted to share it with you here on the channel, so feel free to use this, to borrow from it, and to share it widely. And I'll try to put a PDF version of this presentation in the notes below if I can find a way to attach it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.